Welcome to the Sleepy Astronomer. I'm so glad you're here. As we drift into the stars together tonight, tell me, where in the world are you watching from? Maybe you're under a cloudy sky in London, or wrapped in blankets somewhere in the quiet countryside. Wherever you are, take a deep breath and let your imagination wander into the cosmos. Tonight we're exploring a fascinating, if slightly chilling question. What if the sun went out? Let's journey through time, space, and the quiet consequences of a darkening sky. Imagine standing outside as the final golden rays of sunlight brush across the horizon. The sky is painted in soft strokes of orange, pink, and deep lavender. It feels like an ordinary evening, quiet, serene, timeless. Birds call faintly in the distance, their silhouettes drifting across the glowing sky, unaware that this will be the last sunset the Earth will ever see. You might not even realize it yourself. The air still holds a familiar warmth, and the clouds drift gently as if nothing in the universe has changed. But something has changed. The sun, our silent guardian in the sky, has gone out. Not with a bang, not with a dramatic burst of light, but quietly, distantly, without ceremony, and because sunlight takes about 8 minutes to reach us from 93 million miles away, no one down here on Earth notices. At least not yet. For just a little longer, we live in the illusion that all is well, that the sun is still watching over us. You take in the moment without knowing how rare and precious it is. The soft glow on your skin, the rustling leaves turning gold, the shadows stretching long over the ground, gently following the curve of the earth as it prepares for nightfall. Perhaps you're walking home, your shoes crunching over gravel or fallen leaves. Or maybe you're sitting quietly by a window, sipping something warm, watching as the daylight slowly dims. Children are still playing. Lights are flickering on in windows. Somewhere, a radio hums faintly, lost in the background of life. It's peaceful, familiar, beautiful in a way only normal days can be. Then the sun dips below the edge of the world. And that's it. No one knows it yet, but that was the last goodbye. The final bow of our ancient star. For billions of years, it lit our skies without fail. It shaped the rhythm of our days, the seasons, the growth of every leaf, every grain, every breath we've ever taken. It guided ancient travellers, warmed the oceans, painted every sunrise and every sunset in infinite colours. And now, without warning or explanation, it's gone. But you don't feel panic. Not yet. The first moments are still cradled in the comfort of routine. People light candles, street lights buzz on. The world feels sleepy, like it always does in the soft darkening hours. Nothing unusual. Not yet. Maybe you're looking up at the stars now, noticing how sharp and clear they look tonight. Without the glare of the sun, the night sky seems deeper. The stars, once dim, now glow fiercely. You see constellations you've never noticed before, and for a moment, it takes your breath away. It's stunning. The kind of quiet beauty that poets try to describe, but never quite can. But even in this wonder, something is missing. You can feel it in your bones, subtle but undeniable. The earth seems to sigh. The warmth is retreating just a little too quickly. The shadows have grown too still. There is no promise of morning, no quiet reassurance that the light will return. And though the stars dazzle above, their cold brilliance offers no comfort. Because deep inside, something ancient stirs in your mind, the instinct that light should return, that dawn should always follow dusk. And now, it won't. The last rays of light are already 8 minutes in the past, racing through space, unaware that Earth is their final destination. And we, still unaware of the truth, continue to live for a few more quiet minutes inside the memory of the sun. In that moment, those precious minutes between reality and realization, the world holds its breath. And the last sunset, like a lullaby fading into silence, whispers goodbye to everything it ever touched. For 8 precious minutes after the sun has vanished, the earth remains wrapped in its gentle illusion. A fragile illusion, but one that feels complete. Light continues to pour through the sky as though nothing has changed. Trees stretch toward a golden sky. Shadows spill softly across the ground. Everything feels normal, beautiful even. It's strange to think that the light we bask in is no longer connected to its source. It's like watching the final flickers of a candle that has already burned out, light travelling from the past, a glowing echo of something that no longer exists. In this moment, the earth is drifting through a memory, unaware that it's already begun to lose its star. Up above, photons, tiny particles of light, are still arriving, having left the surface of the sun just before it went dark. They rush across the vacuum of space at 299,792 kilometers per second, weaving through planets, dust, and silence, unaware that the source they came from has disappeared. Every sunrise, every noontime shadow, every ray of warmth we've ever felt came from these photons, launched on a journey from fusion deep inside the sun's core. And for these 8 minutes, that journey continues. People go about their day. Maybe someone is taking a late evening walk, listening to the chirping of insects and watching the sky turn from gold to blue. A child is finishing homework under the gentle glow of twilight. In cities, the streets are beginning to hum with the sounds of nightlife. Lamps flicker on in apartment windows. Conversations continue over dinners, over cups of tea, over long-distance phone calls that stretch between continents. Somewhere, an astronomer might be looking up at the sky through a telescope, not yet noticing anything unusual. The planets still reflect sunlight. The moon still glows faintly. Nothing looks wrong. But time is ticking. Minute by minute, we edge closer to a horizon we can't yet see. And when the last light arrives, it will arrive like any other. No flare, no signal, just a soft fading into shadow. It's poetic, really, that the last light of the sun, our ancient companion, our furnace in the sky, should end not in fire and drama, but in silence, in delay. The sun could already be cold, dark and dead, and we would still be turning toward it, still welcoming its light, still warmed by the past. It makes you wonder about time, about how much of our lives are spent living in echoes, in reflections of things that have already passed. The stars we wish upon are often long gone. The words we remember are spoken by voices no longer here. The warmth we feel now is sometimes the glow of something that ended long ago. That is what the Earth is feeling now. Perhaps, far above, satellites still orbit, sensors unaware of what's coming. Solar panels still drink in photons. Space telescopes still gather images of a sunlit Earth. There's no tremor, no vibration, no sign of cosmic tragedy. Just light, moving at the speed of history, arriving one last time. At minute 4, maybe someone steps outside and feels the breeze shift. It feels cooler than expected, but they shrug it off. At minute 5, the animals start to quiet. Birds find their branches. The air feels still. At minute 6, a photographer sets up a shot to capture the last blush of colour on the horizon, unaware that this image will be the final one of its kind. At minute 7, lovers hold hands beneath a golden sky, whispering promises they believe tomorrow will still keep. And then, minute 8. The last photons arrive. They slip into our world like any others, bouncing off the oceans, warming rooftops, touching faces. And then, nothing. The sky doesn't go black immediately. The transition is soft, subtle, but something is missing. A stillness so deep, so sudden, it steals the breath. The light is still here, but it has stopped being replenished. From this point forward, everything begins to change. Quietly, slowly, and yet irreversibly. We are no longer living under the sun. We are living under its memory. The change begins slowly, so slowly in fact, that at first it's easy to miss. A light breeze brushes across the surface of a quiet lake, and though it feels just a little cooler than usual, the shift is subtle enough to be dismissed. Someone walking home pulls their jacket tighter around their body, thinking perhaps the night is arriving sooner than expected. But the night isn't just falling, it's deepening, expanding, growing cold in a way that will never reverse. With the sun gone, the earth is no longer being warmed, not even a little. And yet, the transformation is not instant. That's part of what makes it so eerie. The earth was never directly heated by the sun's fire alone. It was warmed gradually, delicately, through the constant arrival of solar radiation. This radiation takes time to fade, just as a stone heated in the sun takes time to cool. But cool it will. The surface of the planet begins to lose heat, not all at once, but steadily. Like breath leaving the body, cities, fields, oceans all begin to radiate their warmth back into the blackness of space, and there's no longer anything replacing it. No soft touch of dawn, no golden sunbeam stretching across rooftops. Just a steady exhale of warmth into the void. On the first day, temperatures around the world drop by only a few degrees. It feels like an unusually brisk evening. Sweaters come out, windows are closed, thermostats are adjusted. In most places, it's manageable, mild even, but the earth is beginning to shiver, and the chill has only just begun. By the second day, the drop is sharper. Entire cities start to feel the change. The warmth stored in buildings, streets, and soil begins to dissipate. The surfaces that used to radiate heat long into the night now feel cool to the touch, then cold. People begin to wonder what's going on. News reports are vague. Scientists are cautious. Some believe it's a freak global weather event. Others begin to suspect something more. The third day arrives, and the temperature falls below freezing across vast regions. The oceans, so massive and slow to respond, begin to lose their heat. Their surfaces cool. Thin films of ice form in northern lakes, then thicken. Snow begins to fall, not from storm clouds, but from condensation in the dry, chilled atmosphere. It dusts everything in a soft white hush. It is strangely beautiful, even peaceful. But make no mistake, the Earth is in crisis. Plants are some of the first to suffer. With no sunlight, photosynthesis halts completely. Leaves stop drawing in carbon dioxide. Growth stops. Flowers wilt. Crops fail. Greenhouses switch to artificial lighting, but the cost of generating that light and heat quickly becomes unsustainable. Farmers know what this means. Food chains are beginning to fracture. Animals respond instinctively. Birds migrate, though now, without the sun, there is no longer a clear direction. Their ancient maps were written in light. Some fly in confused loops. Others settle in unfamiliar places, waiting for a warmth that will never come. Mammals burrow. Reptiles grow still. Insects vanish. People begin to panic. Governments initiate emergency responses. Power grids strain as every household demands heat. Fuel consumption skyrockets. Shelters open. Borders shift. Millions begin to migrate toward the equator, hoping that the centre of the planet will hold on to warmth just a little longer. And they're right. Regions near the equator are slower to cool, but only for a short while. Week by week, the cold deepens. By the end of the first month, the average surface temperature on Earth has dropped to 17 digs, 1 degrees. Oceans continue to cool. Ice spreads from the poles toward the equator. Rivers slow, then freeze. Snowfall becomes more frequent, but gentler, less the result of storm systems, and more the result of quiet, accumulating condensation from the ever-drying atmosphere. The planet, once alive with the chatter of birds, the buzzing of bees, the rustle of wind in sunlit trees, grows silent, muffled, still. The warmth of life retreats underground, into bunkers, into caves, into shelters lined with insulation and buzzing with artificial heat. Entire regions are abandoned. Cities become silent white skeletons of their former selves. And above it all, the stars shine. With no sun to dominate the sky, the constellations burn brighter than ever before. The Milky Way arcs like a frozen river across the heavens. It's beautiful, achingly so, but it is not friendly. It offers no warmth, no shelter, no reprieve, only the cold, ancient silence of space. Yet even in the face of this chill, life clings. Humanity does not surrender easily. Underground bunkers begin to thrive. Heat is generated through nuclear energy, geothermal vents, anything that can be harnessed. Crops are grown in hydroponic chambers, under artificial lights. A few countries begin to collaborate on global heating networks, systems that transport energy to where it's needed most. Still, the Earth continues to cool. By the end of 1 year, the average temperature on the planet has dropped below 40 degrees. The oceans are largely frozen on the surface. Only deep currents still circulate beneath layers of ice. The Earth's atmosphere begins to collapse, quite literally. As the air cools, it contracts, becomes denser. In the coldest places, carbon dioxide begins to freeze out of the atmosphere entirely, falling like snow. It is a silent, relentless descent. No warmth will return. Not in a year. Not in 1,000. Not ever. The sun is gone, and the earth, once a blue jewel warmed by golden light, is becoming a frozen shadow of what it once was. And yet, somewhere underground, a child is born. Wrapped in blankets, surrounded by warmth created not by sunlight, but by human hands, the cold above is vast, unthinkable. But below, the spark of life remains, flickering, fragile, but still burning. At first it just looks like nightfall. The sun has disappeared, but the world hasn't caught on yet. The sky turns that deep shade of indigo we've all grown used to. Streetlights buzz softly to life. Porch lamps glow. Windows flicker with televisions and computer screens. It feels like any ordinary evening, just a little darker than usual, just a little more quiet. But something is off. Something subtle, like a change in the background music of life that only a few sensitive souls can detect. There is no sunrise on the horizon, and there never will be again. 12 hours pass, then 24, then 36, and still the darkness remains. What began as an expected sunset has transformed into something unnatural, an unending, star-filled blanket that wraps the world in an eerie stillness. Morning doesn't come. Alarm clocks ring, but the sky stays black, and little by little, people begin to realize this is not night. This is something else entirely. Midnight now stretches on endlessly, swallowing noon into its silent embrace. Shadows no longer change. They are permanent now, etched into every surface by artificial lights or the ghostly glimmer of stars. In homes, the rhythms of daily life start to falter. Circadian rhythms, our inner clocks, begin to drift. Some people sleep at odd hours. Others stay awake for days. Time becomes slippery, meaningless. Without sunlight, the body doesn't know when to eat, when to rest, when to rise. People rely more heavily on digital clocks, alarms, calendars, anything to hold on to structure. But it all feels artificial, like trying to mimic a song without ever hearing the melody. The world's great cities, New York, Tokyo, Cairo, Paris, pulse with light, trying to mimic the sun, to push back the darkness. Neon signs, LED displays, glowing towers all stretch skyward, as though to summon the day from the void. But no matter how brightly we shine, the sky does not answer. The dark is not just an absence of light. It is something heavier, thicker. It presses in on windows, seeps into alleys, lingers in the corners of every room. In rural areas, far from the glow of cities, the darkness is absolute. Step outside, and the blackness wraps around you like ink. You can see stars, thousands of them, millions, but they offer no warmth. Their beauty is cold, ancient, indifferent. You might find the Milky Way stretching from horizon to horizon, glittering like a celestial river. You might see meteor showers streaking silently across the sky. But you'll also feel very small and very alone For animals, the change is devastating. Birds, especially those that rely on light to migrate or hunt, become confused. Some fly in endless circles, exhausting themselves in the dark. Others land and wait, never taking flight again. Nocturnal animals, once adapted to the rhythm of day and night, find themselves in a strange, unchanging world. Their patterns falter. Predators can no longer depend on the shadows for stealth. They are always in shadow now. Prey animals can no longer hide during the day. There is no day. Some species begin to vanish. Quietly, without drama. Just gone. Plants stop moving. Leaves that once turned to follow the sun now hang limp. Vines no longer climb. Petals no longer open. Even in greenhouses, with artificial lights humming overhead, something feels missing. The artificial day we try to recreate cannot mimic the full spectrum of the sun. Growth slows. Colours fade. The world becomes pale. In human society, a deep psychological shift begins. The eternal night starts to change how people think, how they feel. Depression rates skyrocket. Sleep disorders spread like wildfire. Some people start sleeping for 14 or 16 hours a day. Others cannot sleep at all. Some withdraw completely, retreating into books, screens, or silence. Others grow frantic, desperate to feel daylight again, even if only through memory. Artists begin to paint the sun, over and over, in golds, reds, brilliant yellows. Musicians write songs about dawn. Children draw suns in their notebooks, not because they've seen it, but because their parents have told them stories, because they remember. Memory becomes our only source of sunlight. Religions shift. In some corners of the world, new faiths emerge, devoted to bringing the light back, or to embracing the darkness. Prophets rise and fall. Some claim the sun's disappearance was punishment. Others say it is a test. Others still believe it is the beginning of a transformation humanity was meant to endure. But deeper than belief is a quiet, shared sorrow. Every window, every skylight, every sundial, now obsolete, reminds us of what we've lost. Parks become empty. Beaches are silent. The ocean, without the glimmer of sunlight, looks like a sheet of black glass. There is no horizon anymore, only a line where the earth ends and the void begins. We try to adjust. Time zones are abandoned. Clocks are reset. International efforts push to establish a new global schedule. Artificial days, artificial nights. People work in shifts, sleep in turns. Cities coordinate light cycles. Some attempt to simulate a sunrise every 24 hours using massive dome lights or mirrored satellites. But it is a pale imitation. The human body knows the difference. The soul knows the difference. And yet, within all this darkness, life continues. A mother rocks her baby to sleep beneath a starlit ceiling projector. A scientist stares into a telescope, studying the cold beauty of space. An old man remembers sitting in the sun with his wife, eyes closed, skin warm, and smiles softly at the memory. In every corner of the darkened earth, someone still hopes for light. Midnight at noon has become our new normal, but the longing for morning has never left. High above the earth, a familiar face has vanished from the sky. The moon, our glowing companion through countless nights, no longer shines. It hasn't exploded or vanished into the void. It's still there, locked in orbit, circling silently. But now it's hidden, invisible, cast into shadow without the sun to light its face. For millions of years, the moon has watched over Earth's nights, glowing silver and pale gold, waxing and waning with dependable grace. Poets have written about it. Lovers have sighed under it. Wolves have howled toward its glowing curve. But now, without sunlight to reflect, the moon is just a dark rock, cold, quiet, forgotten. The change is unsettling. People look up, expecting to see that familiar crescent or glowing orb, but find only stars. The moon's absence leaves a hole in the sky, not just a visual emptiness, but something deeper. A missing rhythm, a missing presence. Without its gentle light, the night feels sharper, starker, as though something ancient and comforting has been stripped away. Telescopes can still find it, of course. Scientists track it easily, calculating its orbit, its speed, its position. It's still moving, still obeying gravity, still dancing around us as it always has. But to the naked eye, it has become a shadow, a ghost, a shape only revealed in silhouette when it crosses in front of stars or passes briefly between Earth and some distant planet's reflection. In the countryside, people who once enjoyed moonlit walks now find themselves surrounded by a black so thick it feels like velvet pressed against their eyes. There are no gentle glows to illuminate paths, no soft silver to shimmer on lakes or rooftops. Photographers, once obsessed with capturing the moon in all its moods, now turn their lenses elsewhere, or let them gather dust. For wildlife, the loss is profound. Many species have relied on the moon's phases for millennia. Sea turtles time their nesting with lunar cycles. Certain birds migrate by moonlight. Insects navigate by the way moonlight interacts with the environment. Even coral reefs have used the moon's rhythm to trigger synchronized spawning events. Without this ancient cue, chaos spreads across ecosystems. Creatures become disoriented. Patterns collapse. Life stumbles forward, blind. Humans too feel the disruption. We might not depend on moonlight the way animals do, but we feel its loss. In our emotions, our dreams, our culture. Myths across the world have told stories of the moon as a goddess, a guardian, a trickster, a clock in the sky. It was a beacon in the night, a friend that followed us wherever we went. And now it follows us still, but as a silent, dark eye above a world already slipping into shadow. The tides still rise and fall, for now. The moon's gravity is untouched by light. It still pulls at the Earth's oceans, shifting billions of tons of water back and forth. But something has changed even there. Without the sun, the Earth begins to freeze. Oceans crust over with ice, first in the north and south, then crawling slowly toward the equator. As the surface hardens, tides become sluggish. The moon continues to tug, but the seas begin to resist. Locked beneath sheets of expanding ice, the oceans grow still. And so, the moon's influence wanes, not because it is weaker, but because the world it acts upon is changing beyond recognition. In some places, people gather to see the moon anyway. They sit in quiet fields or on rooftops, gazing into the place where it should be. They bring children and whisper stories, pointing at the invisible arc above. Some draw chalk circles on the ground to represent its phases. Others sing old songs, read poems, or simply sit in silence. It becomes an act of memory, of reverence. In a dark world, remembering the light is an act of courage. Some scientists begin projects to recreate moonlight. Massive mirrors in orbit are proposed, giant floating reflectors to bounce artificial light down in soft curves, mimicking what once was. Others suggest releasing satellites programmed to orbit and shine just like the moon did, changing in brightness and shape over time. But these projects remain dreams. Expensive, complex, perhaps even unnecessary, some say. But those who remember the moon know otherwise. There is a special kind of loneliness that comes with its disappearance. Because unlike the sun, distant, blazing, unreachable, the moon felt close, intimate. It saw us when we cried alone at night. It was there when we took our first steps into darkness. It hung over graveyards and festivals and lovers' promises. It was soft and strange and beautiful in a way the sun never was. Its light wasn't blinding, it was gentle, quiet. It didn't command attention, it invited reflection. And now that reflection is gone. No glowing crescent rising over mountaintops. No full moon illuminating snowy fields. No sliver of light resting on the ocean's skin. Only a black circle moves above us now. Silent, faithful, forgotten. But not by all. Somewhere, deep beneath the earth, in a bunker powered by geothermal energy, a child is drawing the moon in crayon. Her mother told her about it, how it used to glow like silver, how it changed shape night after night. She draws it smiling, floating high above a sleeping earth, shining down on forests and foxes, rivers and rooftops. And even though she's never seen it with her own eyes, she believes in it. Because sometimes memory is enough to keep something alive, even in the darkest sky. Without the sun to dominate the sky, a quiet transformation begins overhead. What was once a blue canvas, bright and blinding during the day, has now surrendered entirely to the stars. They emerge not only at night, but always. Unfiltered, unchallenged, uninterrupted, the sun's absence grants them full reign over the heavens. At first, the stars appear brighter simply because the sky is darker, but as time passes, something more profound occurs. The human eye adapts. No longer forced to squint through the day's glare or shield itself from ultraviolet rays, the eye begins to rediscover its ancient ability to see in low light. Over days and weeks, pupils dilate wider. Night vision sharpens. Constellations that once faded under city lights now blaze across the heavens with a clarity that's almost sacred. Imagine looking up and seeing the Milky Way not as a faint smudge, but as a river of stars flowing across the sky. Billions of tiny lights stretching from horizon to horizon, shimmering with colours the human eye had long forgotten it could perceive. Sapphire blues, soft pinks, dusky golds. It is as if the universe is finally revealing its true face, ancient, infinite, and impossibly vast. People step outside and stare for hours. Even in the cold, they wrap themselves in blankets and sit silently, overwhelmed by the sky. There is something mesmerizing about it, so much so that For a while, it quiets the fear. Even the grief of losing the sun is dulled by the wonder of this new celestial stage. The stars are not just visible now, they are alive, and they are everywhere. In the absence of the sun, even the daytime sky has become a deep twilight, not pitch black, but a permanent indigo. The stars don't vanish during these hours, they linger, steady and soft. No longer confined to the night time, constellations become constant companions. Orion, Cassiopeia, Andromeda, once hidden half the day, now float eternally above our heads. Planets shine with strange intensity. Venus, once the morning star, now gleams like a polished gem. Jupiter hangs in the sky like a miniature sun, casting enough light that it creates pale shadows. Mars glows a ruddy amber, eerie and hypnotic. Even Saturn's rings, once visible only through telescopes, now offer a subtle halo to the naked eye under perfect conditions. In this new starlit world, ancient instincts stir. For much of human history, before electricity, before cities, before the modern world, people lived by the stars. They planted crops according to their rhythms, told stories about their shapes, used them to navigate seas and deserts. Now, those stories return. Skywatching becomes more than a hobby. It becomes a need, a ritual, a source of orientation in a world whose central light has gone out. Star maps are shared and studied. Communities form around stargazing, both for comfort and survival. Some people begin to live by sidereal time, measuring the hours based on the movement of the stars rather than artificial clocks. In the absence of sunlight, these stars become our guides. They give us direction when everything else feels lost. But there is something else in the sky now, something stranger. With no sunlight to reflect off particles in the upper atmosphere, Earth's skies become unnaturally clear. The air, growing colder and more still, holds fewer aerosols and less moisture. This clarity allows people to see deeper into the cosmos than ever before. Faint galaxies become visible. The large and small Magellanic Clouds, satellite galaxies of our own, glow faintly to the naked eye in parts of the world. Nebulae, like the Orion and the Eagle, begin to show colour and shape without a telescope. It's not just stargazing anymore. It's like standing at the edge of infinity. And then come the auroras. Without the interference of the sun's direct light, the auroras grow in strength and frequency. Solar winds, still lingering in the system, interact with Earth's magnetic field and paint luminous curtains across the polar skies. But these aren't just confined to the far north or south anymore. As Earth's magnetic field shifts and the atmosphere cools, auroras stretch farther toward the equator. People in places that never dreamed of such displays now watch green, violet, and crimson waves ripple across the heavens. They shimmer like silk in slow motion, like the sky itself is breathing. It is undeniably beautiful, but beauty is not comfort. For every person who stands in awe beneath the stars, another feels swallowed by them. Without the sun, without a point of reference, some feel unanchored, like the sky is too big, too cold, too full of questions. Depression, already growing from the endless night, finds new depth in the endless cosmos. For some, the stars are comforting. For others, they are a reminder of how small and fragile we are. In cities, people gather on rooftops for warmth and companionship, pointing out constellations and sharing stories. In rural areas, small communities rely on the stars to guide their movement and measure the passage of time. Rituals form, the lighting of candles when a certain star rises, songs sung when the moon, still invisible, crosses a certain region of sky. The night sky becomes a clock, a calendar and a chapel. Astronomers work tirelessly, freed from the blinding interference of the sun. Telescopes see farther, clearer, discoveries accelerate. Black holes, exoplanets, cosmic filaments, things once hidden are now within reach. It is a golden age of cosmic observation born from a silver age of silence. Children who are born into this world do not miss the sun the way their parents do. For them, the stars are normal. The constellations are their daytime sky. Their bedtime lullabies are stories of constellations instead of sunrises. They grow up with a different sense of time, of space, of life. Some dream not of sunny fields, but of distant planets and glowing nebulas. Their imaginations stretch outward, not upward. And still, the stars burn on. They do not warm us. They do not light our homes. But they remind us that even in darkness, there is something beyond ourselves. A mystery that cannot be dimmed. A beauty that cannot be erased. So the people of Earth look up, not because they expect the sun to return, but because the stars have taken its place in their hearts. Not as a source of warmth, but as a source of wonder. And in the silence that has replaced the light, wonder is what keeps us alive. Without the sun, the green world falls into stillness. At first it's subtle, leaves no longer shift toward the changing angle of light. Stalks remain upright, unmoving, as if frozen in mid-thought. In forests and fields, everything appears calm, but not with the calm of peace. It's the calm of suspension, as if nature itself has taken a long, uncertain breath. Photosynthesis, the miracle that powered life on Earth for billions of years, halts almost immediately. Plants, from the tallest redwood to the smallest sprig of clover, can no longer absorb light to convert into energy. It is as though the world has suddenly run out of breath. This change is invisible at first. For a few days, or even weeks, many plants survive off the energy they've already stored. Roots continue to draw up water. Some trees, ancient and massive, seem unaffected, still bearing leaves, still standing tall. But beneath that surface lies a slow unravelling. Without sunlight, the factory of life has shut down. Crops are among the first to show distress. In fields that once thrived under the warm gaze of the sun, wheat, corn and vegetables begin to weaken. Their vibrant greens dull. Their stems soften. Growth stops. Fruits wither on the vine. Leaves curl in on themselves, as if trying to preserve the last memory of the light. Farmers notice first. At first they think it's a blight or a shift in weather. But soon the pattern is too widespread, too precise, too complete. It's not disease, it's absence. The plants are dying, not from infection, but from hunger. Photosynthesis wasn't just a function, it was the source of all terrestrial energy. It fed the plants, which fed the animals, which fed us. Remove it, and the web of life begins to fray at every point. Rainforests, normally loud with insect calls and bird cries, grow quieter. Their canopies, usually thick with leaves, begin to thin. Vines droop, ferns wilt, mosses dry into grey mats. Even the great trees, those that have stood for hundreds of years, begin to shed their leaves early, preparing for a winter that will never end. In colder climates, the frost comes faster. Without the sun, temperatures plummet. Trees lose their foliage long before autumn would have arrived. Entire forests seem to hold their breath, waiting for a spring that will never come. Snow begins to fall, blanketing branches that were never meant to carry such weight. Sap freezes inside trunks. Bark cracks. Silent groves become frozen graveyards of once thriving life. But in greenhouses, a battle begins. Scientists and horticulturists work day and night to preserve what they can. They try to simulate the sun with powerful grow lamps, timers, nutrient-rich hydroponics. Entire warehouses are turned into artificial farms, rows of glowing lights suspended over trays of lettuce, tomatoes, herbs, and rice. The light is artificial. The warmth is artificial. The day and night cycles are invented. But for a time, it works. Small pockets of green persist like embers in the ashes. Still, energy is limited. The cost of maintaining artificial light and heat grows with every passing week. Fuel runs low. Batteries fade. Solar power systems fail without sunlight to charge them. And so, even these artificial farms must make choices. What to grow? What to abandon? Which species to save? Which seeds to preserve for a future that may never come? In underground seed vaults, places once built to prepare for the worst, tens of thousands of varieties of plant life are frozen in perfect preservation. These vaults become the cathedrals of life's memory. Here, in silence and refrigeration, the potential for greenery remains, dormant, waiting for a time when the world might warm again. If ever. The animals feel it too. Herbivores, dependent on grasses and leaves, begin to starve. Deer search snow-covered forests for anything green. Cows, sheep, horses, all lose weight rapidly as their food sources vanish. Some are fed from stored grain, but even that begins to run out. Zoos and sanctuaries ration supplies. Wildlife begins to migrate toward human settlements, desperate and confused. Insects disappear, in waves. Bees abandon their hives. Butterflies cease their migrations. Frogs fall silent. The world grows still. The loss of plants does more than remove food. It removes the lungs of the planet. Trees and algae once breathed in carbon dioxide and released oxygen. Now without them, the delicate balance of gases begins to shift. Oxygen levels drop slowly, barely noticeable at first. But in sealed environments, it becomes clearer. Breathing becomes shallower. Headaches come sooner. A tightness in the chest that can't be explained. Algae, especially in the oceans, had been responsible for much of Earth's oxygen. Now, as ocean temperatures fall and sunlight no longer penetrates the waves, even these microscopic organisms die off. The seas, once vibrant and oxygen-rich, begin to grow stagnant. The blue planet fades to grey. Even the colour of Earth changes. Without sunlight, without thriving plant life, the land loses its vibrancy. Green fades into brown, then into white. Snow and ice creep across continents. Deserts grow colder. Mountains vanish beneath storms of frost. The once flourishing biosphere becomes a quiet, pale version of itself. A sleeping world, still turning, still holding on, but barely. And yet in the smallest corners life refuses to give up. Lichens, mosses, fungi, organisms that have long survived in dark, cold environments begin to rise to prominence. Fungi thrive in the decay. They break down what the dying plants leave behind. Some even glow faintly in the darkness, like tiny stars on the forest floor. Bacteria near geothermal vents continue their work, indifferent to the sun's absence. In caves, ecosystems continue, untouched by the world above. In deep research labs, scientists begin to breed genetically engineered plants designed to survive in low light. Others experiment with bioluminescent organisms that might one day create a new kind of light, a new kind of life. And in one lonely greenhouse, warmed by geothermal heat and lit by salvaged solar lamps charged years earlier, a single sunflower begins to bloom. Its yellow petals open toward an artificial lamp, its face following the light as though it were the sun. Someone watches, tears in their eyes, marvelling at the sheer stubbornness of life. The green world is not gone. It is hiding. It is waiting. And where there is even a flicker of light, it will try to grow, because life remembers the sun. And deep within its roots, it still believes in the light. In the absence of the sun, the natural world begins to fall apart, piece by piece. But not all at once. The animal kingdom does not descend into chaos overnight. Rather, it is a slow unravelling, a gentle confusion that builds into crisis. At first, the animals wait. Many, just like us, expect the light to return. They rely on the sky, just as we always have. On the gradual rise of warmth in the morning, on the shift of shadows across the ground, on the golden hour before dusk. Without it, everything they know begins to slip away. Birds are among the first to reveal the disorientation. Those that sing at dawn grow quiet. Some attempt to chirp at regular intervals, uncertain of the hour. Their songs become fractured, out of rhythm, out of time. Migratory birds, guided by the position of the sun and the pull of the seasons, no longer know when or where to go. Some circle endlessly, never leaving their home grounds. Others attempt migrations and are caught in freezing temperatures, collapsing mid-flight into the snow. Insects follow suit. Bees, those tiny architects of ecosystems, stop foraging. Their internal clocks, once tied to sunlight and temperature, are thrown into disarray. They remain in their hives, consuming stored honey. But the stores are finite, and the flowers they once visited have withered and gone. Entire colonies perish in the dark. Butterflies, moths, dragonflies, all vanish like dreams after waking. On the ground, grazers begin to wander aimlessly. Cattle, deer, antelope, horses Creatures that once followed the rhythm of sunrise and sunset now find themselves without direction. They are no longer driven by the day's warmth or the call of growing grass. Their internal clocks run, but with no guidance. They move slower. They eat less. And the food they do find grows scarce. Hunger sets in like a tide, slow and inevitable. Predators respond to the changes, but not in the way stories might suggest. There is no sudden explosion of feral chaos, no mass attacks. Instead, they grow lean, they grow quiet. With prey disappearing, predators hunt more often, but with less success. Some adapt. Wolves and foxes begin to scavenge near human settlements. Big cats grow desperate, taking risks they wouldn't have considered before. But even the most cunning hunters cannot eat what no longer exists. In forests, the silence deepens. Owls, once lords of the night, find their prey fewer and fewer. Rodents disappear underground, trying to find heat. Squirrels stop climbing trees. Raccoons and opossums roam neighbourhoods in search of anything edible. Their eyes, adapted to low light, cannot help them find food that simply isn't there. And the cold changes everything. Animals with thick coats, bears, moose, elk, survive longer. But even they begin to falter as temperatures plummet and food disappears. Hibernate, some try. But hibernation is not meant for a forever winter. Their bodies, built to sleep through seasons, cannot sleep through eternity. Eventually, even the most prepared wake up to a world still frozen, still dark, still lifeless. Marine animals suffer more quietly. The oceans remain warmer longer than the land, but without the sun's rays, that heat steadily bleeds away. Coral reefs, already fragile from human interference, collapse completely. Without light, the symbiotic algae that keep corals alive disappear. The reefs bleach, die, and crumble. With them go thousands of species, fish, invertebrates, and crustaceans that relied on the coral for shelter and food. Plankton populations decline. And this, more than almost anything else, sends shockwaves through the marine food chain. Plankton form the foundation of ocean life. As they vanish, fish go hungry. Whales lose their feeding grounds. The great blue whales, the largest animals on Earth, begin to starve, their ancient migration patterns useless in a sunless sea. And yet, just like on land, some life fights on. Creatures that have evolved in darkness, those who live near hydrothermal vents deep beneath the ocean, continue, undisturbed for now. These bizarre life forms, glowing with bioluminescence and feeding on chemical-rich water from the Earth's crust, are indifferent to sunlight. Their world has always been cold and dark. They may be among the last creatures to notice, or to care, that the sun is gone. Back on the surface, in the margins of the world, humans watch as the animals fade. In sanctuaries and zoos, desperate efforts are made to preserve what remains. Some animals are brought indoors, kept in artificial environments with controlled light and warmth. Special feed is synthesized to replace natural diets. But these programs are limited. Power is finite. Supplies grow thin. Eventually, choices must be made. Which species to save? Which to let go? The heartbreak is quiet but endless. Children grow up never hearing the call of songbirds in the morning, never seeing butterflies drift through a garden, never watching squirrels chase each other up a tree. The only exposure they have is through videos, stories, old documentaries that now feel like science fiction. Still, small efforts bloom in the dark. Some people begin breeding small populations of resilient animals underground, in labs and bunkers. Rabbits, chickens, insects, even frogs, chosen not only for their hardiness, but for their potential to contribute to life again someday. It is not hope in the traditional sense. It is more like defiance, a refusal to let life go completely silent. There are moments of strange companionship. A woman lights a fire in a hidden forest bunker, and a lone fox curls up outside her door, too cold and hungry to run. She leaves food. The fox returns. They never touch, never speak, but they share the dark. Somewhere else, a man hears the soft click of claws against concrete and finds a lost dog, blind in one eye, tail wagging faintly. He takes it in. They survive together. In these moments, the bond between humans and animals grows deeper, even as the world grows colder. Without the distractions of cities, of artificial light and endless activity, we are left with the old companionship, one life beside another, each trying to endure. Not all is lost. Not yet. Somewhere, deep beneath the frozen earth, a mother mouse gives birth. Somewhere else, a frog croaks in a geothermal cave. Life is still here, shivering but alive, waiting, watching, enduring the darkness together. When the sun goes out, people don't panic all at once. The reaction unfolds in stages, like the slow cracking of ice on a deep lake. At first there is confusion. The sunrise doesn't come. Alarms buzz in the darkness. People groggily glance out their windows, checking the time, checking the clocks on their phones, expecting the sky to brighten. But it doesn't. They think it's weather. A freak storm, an eclipse, a scientific glitch that will resolve itself by morning. But then morning passes, and so does afternoon. And still, the sky remains an endless twilight, stars already visible where blue skies should have been. Then comes the second day, the third, a week. No news report can explain what's happening. No satellite offers reassurance. And that's when the whispers begin. People start to understand something has happened to the sun, something irreversible. The first human reaction isn't fear, it's denial. Governments issue calming statements. Scientists caution against jumping to conclusions. Anomalous solar dimming, unusual cosmic behaviour. But when the temperature drops sharply in the second week, even the most hopeful voices begin to go quiet. Hope, once loud and eager, becomes a quiet thing that lives behind closed doors. People begin to hoard, not with chaos, but with calculation. They raid stores for batteries, candles, thermal blankets. Firewood disappears. Generators sell out. In colder countries, heaters run around the clock. Electricity grids strain under the weight of a world that suddenly needs constant energy to fight off the dark. Then the power begins to fail. At first it's rolling blackouts, manageable, timed scheduled. But as days become weeks, and fuel begins to dwindle, outages grow more frequent. Entire regions go dark. Cell towers drop. Internet slows. Radio becomes the last reliable connection, crackling with static-filled updates, survival tips, and voices that sound increasingly tired. In cities, the streets begin to empty. Once humming with life, they become hushed. Streetlights flicker on endlessly, but their glow barely holds back the thick curtain of night. The stars shine above skyscrapers now. Their beauty offers no comfort. In homes, people wrap themselves in coats and blankets, even indoors. They move into smaller rooms, heat only what they must. Families begin to sleep in the same bed just to conserve body heat. Meals grow simpler. Canned soup, crackers, instant rice. No one knows how long their food will last. Routines disintegrate. With no day and night, sleep schedules collapse. Some people sleep for long stretches, their bodies surrendering to exhaustion. Others suffer from insomnia, their minds buzzing with anxiety, unable to rest. Without the sun to guide them, people drift through time in a fog, unsure what hour it is, what day it is, what season. It no longer matters. Mental health frays at the edges. The dark is not just outside, it begins to take root within. Depression rises, people withdraw, some grow irritable and snap at loved ones, others grow silent. A growing number of people begin to report vivid dreams, dreams of fire, of warmth, of a lost light that never returns. Some find comfort in these dreams, others wake from them in tears. In towns and villages, communities try to hold on to some sense of normal. They gather in churches, libraries, gymnasiums, any building large enough to shelter many and warm enough to share heat. People begin to tell stories again, around fires or dim lanterns. They sing, they pray, they hold one another, because touch becomes more important than ever. There is kindness still. A neighbour knocks on a door to offer a spare blanket. A stranger shares half a bottle of propane with a family they just met. Children form games with flashlights, imagining themselves as explorers in a new world. Some people begin to build underground shelters, working together to insulate, to wire up lighting systems powered by stored energy, to bring life below the frozen surface. But there is also desperation. As supplies dwindle, tensions rise. In some areas, theft becomes common, not of money, but of food, fuel, fire. People break into grocery stores not for luxuries, but for matches, for instant soup, for a bottle of clean water. Police forces grow thinner. Hospitals fill with people suffering from frostbite, malnutrition, respiratory illness. In the colder countries, the frost becomes lethal. Pipes freeze and burst. Heating oil runs dry. People freeze in their homes, bundled in coats and blankets that aren't enough. Entire city blocks are abandoned, their windows covered in frost, their streets silent. In warmer climates, things are different, but not easier. The cold arrives more slowly, but it still comes. Food begins to rot. Crops stop growing. Water becomes harder to purify without power. Disease spreads in the close quarters of overcrowded shelters. Governments declare emergencies. Martial law is imposed in some places. In others, leadership collapses altogether. The world begins to fracture into smaller islands of survival. Communities, families, enclaves. Some with power, most without. People begin to move. Mass migrations begin. Southward, inward, underground. Highways are clogged with cars packed with blankets and batteries. Entire towns empty out, chasing rumours of heat, of shelter, of geothermal power. Not everyone makes it. Not everyone is let in. Religions change. Some people return to old beliefs, convinced the sun's disappearance is divine punishment. Others form new cults, gathering under the stars, singing songs to the darkness, lighting bonfires in strange patterns, praying not for the sun's return, but for acceptance of the void. And still, there is resistance. In deep bunkers, scientists work under artificial lights, trying to keep data flowing, trying to understand what happened. In frozen cities, volunteers clear snow from entrances to shelters, maintain communal generators, organise supply distribution. People teach their children to read by lantern light, to boil water, to cook over flame. Life doesn't stop. It just becomes smaller, slower, closer. In the great silence left behind by the sun, humanity becomes something different, more fragile, more fierce, more aware. People begin to see the night sky not just as cold, but as deep, endless. A mirror reflecting our place in the universe. The stars no longer shine above busy cities and distracted lives. They shine above people who look up and remember what it meant to be warm, to be lit, to be held by the light. And so, despite the sorrow, the fear, the cold, humans carry on. They wrap themselves in layers, in stories, in each other. They survive. Because though the sun has gone, there is still a fire that burns behind our ribs, a small, stubborn warmth that refuses to die. Even in darkness, it whispers, "We are still here. We are still alive." The cold comes in waves. It does not arrive like a storm, fast and furious, but like a tide that slowly, relentlessly rises. A quiet invader. Each day, each hour, the temperature drops, not dramatically, but with a steady precision that cannot be ignored. First by single degrees, then by tens. At first it's brisk, then it's freezing, then it's below anything most people have ever experienced, and it never stops. At the start, people dress for a chilly winter. Coats come out of closets, hats, scarves, gloves. Heaters hum louder. Fires are lit in homes that haven't seen a flame in decades. But soon, these things become laughably inadequate. Ordinary insulation can't hold back the cold. Drafts become icy gusts. Walls lose heat faster than they can absorb it. Windows are sealed with blankets and duct tape. Entire rooms are shut off to preserve heat in a single space. Then comes the frost. It creeps in quietly. A thin, glimmering layer at first. On windowsills, on doorknobs, on the insides of homes. People wake up to find frost coating their furniture, creeping up walls, freezing water in cups left overnight. Pipes burst, toilets crack, faucets freeze solid. Water must be boiled, then stored in insulated containers. But even that begins to cool too quickly. People begin to store water not in bottles, but in thermoses and flasks wrapped in cloth, buried under blankets close to their bodies. Outside, the world transforms into a glacial sculpture. Trees freeze solid, their branches snapping under the weight of accumulating snow and ice. Cars are encased in thick layers of frost, windshields opaque, doors frozen shut. Roads disappear under white and grey. Pavement cracks. Power lines sag, then snap. Entire cities lose power as the grid falters beneath the load. Electric wires, brittle with cold, simply fracture. The oceans, once vast and unconquerable, begin to still. They do not freeze overnight. The thermal mass of their water fights the cold, but the surface begins to solidify. Ice creeps outward from the poles, inching toward the equator. Waves slow. Harbours fill with slush, then solid sheets. Shipping stops. Fishing dies out. Under the ice, the water remains liquid, barely, but the life within begins to dwindle. Without sunlight, the oxygen level in the water drops. Algae die off. The food chain withers. Beneath the silence, the sea begins to choke. Snow falls continuously, though not from storms. It falls gently, almost silently, born from condensation in the cold, dry air. It accumulates not just in drifts, but in dunes, massive, sculpted hills of frozen dust. The landscape becomes alien. Trees vanish beneath the weight. Landmarks disappear. Cities are buried, first slowly, then rapidly. Skyscrapers lose their tops to white, then their middles, then vanish entirely beneath a smooth, undisturbed plain. Shelters become tombs for those not prepared. Rooftops collapse under the pressure. Roads vanish. Vehicles are abandoned mid-drive and consumed by snow. Those left outdoors for even minutes at a time risk hypothermia. Skin freezes in seconds. Eyelashes crust over. Breath crystallizes in the air. The sound of crunching snow becomes the only natural noise. Only the wind remains. It moans through empty cities, around broken buildings, across frozen plains. A low, howling song that never ends. It becomes the voice of the new earth, cold, unfeeling, absolute. It polishes ice until it gleams. It sculpts snow into ridges and cliffs. It hides everything that once was. Entire towns vanish beneath its sweep, remembered only by the slight bulge in the snow where a roof once stood. People retreat underground. Subways, cellars, most bunkers, parking garages. Anywhere the earth still offers insulation from the surface, chill. The ground, once merely dirt and stone, becomes sanctuary. Walls are reinforced, doors are sealed. Generators hum, powered by dwindling supplies of fuel. Firewood is rationed like gold. Geothermal energy, where it exists, becomes the rarest and most precious resource. Inside these caves and chambers, human life continues, but barely. It is life at its most primitive. Meals are cooked over makeshift stoves. Batteries are hoarded and recharged with hand cranks, or salvaged solar panels that once drank light that no longer comes. Entire communities rely on LED bulbs powered for just a few hours a day. The glow of artificial light is the new sunrise. Outside, the planet continues to cool. With no sunlight to warm it, Earth's surface temperature drops rapidly. Within a year, the average global temperature falls below -40 degrees Celsius. Within 5 years, it drops below -70. By then, most of the planet's atmosphere has begun to condense. Carbon dioxide turns into dry ice, falling like snow. Even oxygen begins to grow scarce at the surface, forcing survivors to seal their shelters and create artificial breathing environments. The once blue planet becomes white, then silver, then grey. The atmosphere thins. The sky darkens. Not with clouds, but with absence. Sunlight, even reflected from distant planets or the moon, no longer exists. Only starlight remains. And even that feels filtered, faint, far. The cold is no longer a condition. It is the defining character of Earth. And yet, somehow, life flickers on. In isolated outposts, humans adapt. They learn to wear layers upon layers of insulation. They build heated suits for brief surface journeys. They farm mushrooms and algae in insulated biolabs. They recycle water, reclaim heat, reduce movement to preserve energy. They rebuild civilization not as it once was, but as something tighter, smaller, deeper. A child born into this world has never felt warm sunlight, has never stepped barefoot on grass, has never heard birdsong or the rustling of leaves in a summer breeze. Their world is dark corridors, humming lights, rationed heat, and yet they laugh. They draw pictures of stars. They play games with other children by flashlight. They carry the fire forward, even if they do not know what it used to look like. In the cold, humanity becomes something new. Not broken, not defeated, transformed. There is a strange beauty in the ice. Crystals that form like delicate lace. Silence that allows the smallest sounds to feel sacred. A new kind of awe, not for what has been lost, but for what has endured. For every life that still breathes. For every heartbeat in the dark. And though the earth sleeps in its deep winter, far colder than any glacier, far longer than any season, it is not entirely dead. Deep beneath the ice, in geothermal pockets and carefully engineered vaults, the spark remains, waiting, surviving, carrying the last warmth of the world forward, one flicker at a time. With the sun gone, the sky becomes a strange and unfamiliar canvas. The world has already lost its blue, its warmth, its glow of day. But something new begins to bloom above, a spectacle both eerie and breathtaking. It starts faintly, like whispers of light at the edges of the world. Then it grows bolder, wilder, dancing across the darkness in colours that seem to belong to dreams more than to nature. Auroras. Without the glare of the sun, and with the Earth's magnetic field still intact, for now, the sky becomes a theatre of silent storms. Solar wind, still streaming from the sun's final emissions, continues to interact with the planet's magnetic shield. These charged particles spiral down toward the poles, colliding with molecules in the upper atmosphere. And when they do, they explode in colour. What used to be a rare and northern miracle becomes something far more profound. Auroras no longer cling to the edges of the Arctic. They spread. They descend. They wrap themselves around the planet in giant, luminous rivers of green, violet, crimson and blue. They flicker like spirits above frozen cities. They shimmer above silent forests and abandoned highways, over oceans now sleeping beneath ice. For many people, it's the most beautiful thing they've ever seen. The first time it happens, some think the sky is burning. Others think it's a sign, a cosmic message or divine event. People gather outside despite the cold, wrapped in blankets and scarves, standing in stillness as waves of light ripple silently from horizon to horizon. It is not a soundless sky though. Some swear they hear crackling, whispering, a soft hum. Scientists long debated whether auroras had sound, but now, in a world that has grown so quiet, people start to hear things they never noticed before. Children who have never seen daylight stare in wide-eyed wonder. Their parents tell them that the sky once looked different, that it once was lit from above, not by this alien glow, but by a golden disk that rose and set. But to them, the aurora is normal. It is their daylight, their sun, a shifting, living curtain that lights up the endless night. Artists try to capture it. They mix paints in underground studios, trying to recreate the feeling of light that moves without shape. Musicians write songs about the wind of colours on us and the sky's quiet fire. Poets compare it to memories, fragile, bright, fleeting. Even scientists, hardened by months of survival work, find themselves staring upward in awe, their calculations forgotten for a moment, replaced by something like reverence. The auroras are not just beautiful, they become useful. In a world without sunrise or sunset, they offer something more than wonder. They become timekeepers. Patterns emerge, frequencies, specific shades appear at regular intervals. The sky becomes a clock for those who have learned to read it. Communities time events by the appearance of certain colours: green for morning, violet for midday, deep red for evening. Though those divisions are invented, emotional. They offer a new kind of rhythm, a symbolic one, a shared mythology for the future. But there is more happening above. Without the sun's radiation scattering in the upper atmosphere, Earth's skies grow unnaturally clear. The layers of air grow colder, thinner. Particles settle, the stars, already bright, now appear with a sharpness the world has not seen in thousands of years. Even without telescopes, the human eye begins to pick out galaxies. Nebulae swirl softly to the naked eye. The universe opens like a flower. But this clarity also allows the auroras to paint more vivid patterns. The oxygen in the upper atmosphere glows green at lower altitudes, red at higher ones. Nitrogen pulses blue and purple. These reactions, once limited to rare bursts of solar wind, now occur almost continuously. The sky becomes a living canvas, changing every hour, every day. And then the storms come. Occasionally, bursts of ancient solar energy, delayed by time and distance, wash over the planet. These storms amplify the auroras, turning the sky into a roiling sea of colour. Entire nights glow bright enough to see by. Shadows return, soft, surreal shadows cast not by the sun, but by electric green or violet light. In some places, the auroras grow so intense that they can be seen below ground. Their glow leaks in through skylights, cave entrances, ventilation shafts, casting flickering light on bunker walls and ceiling beams. Children play in its glow. Adults weep quietly at the beauty of it. It becomes a spiritual experience, not a reminder of what was lost, but a gift from what remains. And still, not all is wonder. The auroras come from solar particles, but the sun is no longer shining, which means these particles are remnants, leftovers, echoes. Eventually, they too will fade. The auroras will slow, their frequency will drop, their colours will dim, and one day the sky will go still, not just dark, but silent, just stars, forever, unmoving. People know this. Some track the fading, counting the days, creating aurora calendars. Some ignore it, choosing instead to believe that the sky will always dance, that the light will always return. Some invent stories, myths, explanations that bring comfort. They say the auroras are the Earth's way of remembering the sun, that every shimmer is a memory, a farewell, a promise. And for a time, that is enough. For a time, the sky still speaks. The cold is deadly, the world is frozen. But above, there is beauty. There is movement. There is colour in a place that should have none. And as long as that colour continues to dance, people find reasons to gather, to hope, to stay alive. Because even without the sun, the sky is still trying to sing, and we are still listening. As the surface of Earth becomes unlivable, humanity retreats underground. Not all at once, not in a coordinated migration, but gradually, inevitably, and quietly. What begins as temporary shelter becomes permanent refuge. Bunkers, caves, subways, basements, spaces that were once meant for temporary escape now become homes. People descend beneath the surface, hoping to find warmth, hoping to find life. At first, it's a matter of necessity. Homes above ground become impossible to heat. Streets vanish under snow. Buildings freeze solid. Above ground, the cold has claimed every surface, every wall, every structure. Below, the earth itself provides insulation. Its thick crust holds onto a warmth that never quite fades, fueled by geothermal heat radiating from deep within. The deeper humanity descends, the safer they are from the cold. Tunnels become streets. Caves become neighbourhoods. Subway stations transform into communal hubs. People sleep on beds made from salvaged furniture or blankets spread on concrete floors. Underground rivers and aquifers become lifelines, water sources carefully managed, purified, rationed. Geothermal springs offer warmth, bathing pools, even small farms sustained by artificial lighting. Life below ground is tight, confined, close. Spaces are limited and privacy is rare. Entire families live in rooms smaller than a single bedroom once was. Walls are thin, doors rare. Yet paradoxically, community becomes stronger. Shared living means shared survival. Neighbours become family. Strangers become friends. They depend on one another, not just for supplies, but for emotional support, for strength, for reminders that life continues. In deeper tunnels, communities form around geothermal vents. These natural sources of heat become vital. Rooms are carved directly into rock, reinforced with concrete, metal, or whatever can be salvaged from above. Warm air circulates through narrow shafts. Pipes run from thermal vents to heat water, cook food, and maintain steady temperatures. Engineers, once office workers or students, become indispensable. They learn to repair ventilation systems, install new heating pipes, build generators from scrap. Below ground, people discover a new rhythm. Time no longer belongs to the sun. Instead, clocks are set artificially, cycles of sleeping and waking determined by community consensus, by health experts trying to maintain circadian rhythms without sunlight. Lamps glow softly during daytime hours. During night, lights dim to conserve energy. People learn to live by these artificial patterns, even if their bodies still long for sunlight they have nearly forgotten. Children born underground never know the surface world. For them, the stories their parents tell sound like fantasy. Green fields, blue skies, animals running free, all seem impossible, dreamlike. Their reality is tunnels lit by glowing lamps, playgrounds made from reclaimed metal, classrooms built in old metro cars or carved out of rock. Food is grown hydroponically, in long rows beneath artificial lighting. Mushrooms, algae, potatoes, beans, anything that can thrive in confined, light-poor conditions. Livestock are scarce. Instead, communities rely heavily on insects raised for protein. Farms are carefully maintained by botanists and biologists, once teachers or office workers, now guardians of life. Water is recycled endlessly, purified through complex filtration systems designed by former engineers and scientists. Yet life underground is more than mere survival. Communities form traditions, rituals, and celebrations that give meaning to their new lives. Birthdays, anniversaries, communal dinners all take on a greater importance. With few possessions, simple gestures hold more significance. Handmade gifts, songs written by amateur musicians, stories told by elders, these become the true riches of this subterranean civilization. There are moments of surprising joy underground. Children invent new games, racing through tunnels, their laughter echoing against stone walls. Couples marry in ceremonies lit by strings of softly glowing bulbs. Communities gather weekly to share food, to sing songs, to exchange news or discuss problems. Humanity's enduring spirit finds new expression in the quiet warmth beneath the frozen surface. Yet life underground isn't without danger or hardship. Ventilation systems break, causing carbon dioxide build-up. Pipes burst, flooding tunnels and ruining precious resources. Earthquakes and cave-ins threaten entire communities. Medical supplies run low, forcing doctors to innovate, reusing and sterilizing equipment. Psychological struggles emerge from living in perpetual confinement, claustrophobia, anxiety, depression. Yet even these challenges strengthen bonds as people band together to fix problems, support the suffering, rebuild what's damaged. Explorers begin to map vast networks of underground caves, discovering hidden reservoirs, precious veins of minerals, even new areas suitable for settlement. These explorations become legendary, stories told and retold, passed down through generations. Heroes emerge, ordinary people who ventured into darkness and returned bearing hope. Knowledge is preserved carefully. Books are guarded as treasures. Education continues, taught by volunteers or former teachers. Children learn about history, mathematics, biology, not as abstract ideas, but as vital tools for survival. Libraries become revered places, kept dry and safe. Learning isn't just encouraged, it becomes essential, a lifeline connecting the past and the future. Technology shifts to serve the new way of life. Solar panels salvaged from the surface are adapted to work with faint aurora light, capturing energy whenever possible. Batteries are maintained meticulously, their lifespan extended through careful charging and discharging. Old generators are repurposed or rebuilt. People become experts in recycling, reusing every possible resource. Even waste is processed carefully, composted, recycled, transformed into fuel. Yet despite humanity's resilience, there is always a quiet longing beneath the surface. People dream of the sky they've lost, even those who've never seen it. Stories of sunlit fields, starry nights, bird song, all stir something deep and universal. Art, music, literature, these things continue to be created, capturing memories and dreams, ensuring the world above is never entirely forgotten. In some places, communities dare to return briefly to the surface, wrapped in heavy suits and masks, exploring the frozen landscape for salvageable resources. These expeditions become pilgrimages, quiet journeys into a world long left behind. They find abandoned homes, frozen cities, vehicles buried in snow, reminders of a life that feels distant, almost mythical. Eventually, people realize they are no longer temporary refugees. They are pioneers of a new civilization, one adapted to darkness, to confinement, to the constant presence of rock and stone. This realization doesn't break them, it empowers them. They build underground cities, intricate networks of tunnels lit by lamps, powered by geothermal heat, sustained by stubborn hope. Underground humanity is transformed, becoming something new, stronger, closer, wiser. They learn lessons the surface never taught: cooperation over competition, empathy over isolation, community over individualism. They discover how deeply they rely on one another, how profoundly connected they are to the earth beneath their feet. Even beneath the frozen surface, humanity endures, determined to survive, to preserve life, and someday, perhaps, to return to the world above. Until then, they live quietly, courageously, beneath the frozen earth, warmed by hope, by one another, by the very depths of the planet that sheltered them when the sky went dark. Without the sun, the solar system itself begins to change. Not immediately, not dramatically at first, but slowly and unstoppably. The planets, moons, asteroids, comets, all were bound to the sun, not just by its gravity, but by its energy, its radiation, its warmth. Now that central force has vanished, and the consequences ripple outward in slow cosmic waves. The planets remain orbiting the darkened star, held by the sun's enormous gravity, which endures even in its deathly cold state. Gravity doesn't require heat or light, only mass, and that the sun still has. But without radiation pressure, the solar winds weaken, falter, and eventually fade away. Space around the planets becomes emptier, quieter, devoid of the gentle solar wind that once shaped planetary magnetospheres and atmospheres. Mercury, closest to the darkened sun, feels the loss most dramatically. Its surface plunges from scorching heat to deep, absolute cold, swinging violently into eternal night. Without sunlight, Mercury becomes a frozen rock, cratered and silent, a lifeless sphere hanging like a shadowy ghost. Venus follows suit. Its thick atmosphere of carbon dioxide, once heated to extreme temperatures by the sun's rays, begins to cool. Over decades, the oppressive clouds grow thicker as temperatures drop. Its storms settle, its winds calm. Eventually the clouds freeze out, carbon dioxide snow drifting slowly to the surface, leaving behind a silent, eerie planet of frost-covered rock. Mars, already cold and barren, descends quickly into deeper freeze. Its thin atmosphere, sustained weakly by solar radiation, now collapses entirely, condensing onto the surface. Ice thickens at the poles, spreading steadily toward the equator. Mars becomes an icy sphere, even more desolate than before, yet beautiful in its stark whiteness. A world frozen in silence. The gas giants, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, feel the loss differently. Their internal heat sources sustain them somewhat, independent of the sun. Jupiter continues to glow faintly from within, its massive storms persisting. Yet even this giant slowly cools. The great red spot fades, storms lose intensity, and eventually the enormous planet becomes calmer, quieter. A vast sphere cooling steadily over centuries. Saturn's rings, magnificent and shimmering in sunlight, now dim into ghostly bands, visible only through starlight and the reflected glow of distant planets. Its moons, icy and already cold, become colder still. Titan, its largest moon, sees its liquid methane lakes freeze solid. Enceladus, once active with geysers, quiets as internal warmth diminishes, its geysers slowing to silence. Further out, Uranus and Neptune, already frigid, slip deeper into chill. Their clouds freeze solid, their atmospheres calm to stillness. They become worlds suspended in darkness, preserved forever in a state of quiet, icy beauty. The asteroid belt grows quieter, its rocky debris orbiting silently without the sun's warmth. Comets no longer sport glowing tails, instead drifting quietly through space as frozen, dormant objects. Pluto and other dwarf planets, always cold, now become eternal statues in the distant reaches of the solar system, frozen sentinels in the dark. Yet even as the planets cool and settle into eternal stillness, something extraordinary happens. Human attention shifts outward. Astronomers working in underground observatories peer deeper into the cosmos than ever before. Without sunlight obscuring the sky, telescopes see farther. Clearer, they begin to map distant stars, study alien planets orbiting distant suns, worlds that still bask in warmth, places humanity dreams of someday reaching. This shift inspires a new idea, a radical thought that begins quietly, grows slowly, then spreads rapidly. If the sun is gone, could humanity create its own? Could we engineer a new source of light and warmth, a fusion sun to orbit Earth, or artificial satellites capable of reflecting starlight with enough intensity to sustain life? Scientists debate it. Some dismiss it as impossible fantasy, others as humanity's last chance. Experiments begin underground, hidden beneath layers of rock and ice. Fusion reactors, once experimental, become urgent projects. The brightest minds work tirelessly, driven by necessity, by the stubborn refusal to surrender to darkness. Progress is slow, plagued by setbacks, yet each failure teaches something new. Each attempt brings humanity closer, not to recreating the sun exactly, but to harnessing the power of stars. Fusion reactors hum quietly beneath the frozen earth, small suns igniting in controlled chambers, offering glimpses of hope, of possibility. Above ground, satellites are deployed, mirrors stretching for kilometers in space, designed to capture starlight, amplify it, and beam it down as focused, artificial sunlight. Initial experiments provide faint but meaningful warmth. Small patches of surface ice melt, revealing ground not seen for decades. Plants are coaxed from dormancy beneath artificial illumination, tiny leaves unfurling in the warmth of a manufactured sunlight. Communities rejoice at these successes, however small. Songs are written about the day humans created their own sunrise. Children grow up hearing stories about the engineers and scientists who refused to let the world remain frozen. Humanity, driven underground and reshaped by darkness, now begins to reclaim the surface. Tentatively, slowly, but determinedly. Yet even as humanity dreams of a new dawn, memories of the old sun linger. Elders tell stories of warmth, of sunlight on skin, of golden afternoons and fiery sunsets. These stories become sacred texts, shared with reverence and longing. The sun, though physically gone, remains alive in memory, in hope, in dreams. Underground communities hold ceremonies where artificial suns are lit, symbolic rituals honouring the lost star and celebrating humanity's resilience. They gather beneath domes illuminated by artificial sunlight, their faces warmed not by true sunlight, but by a light they've created themselves. It is different, but beautiful in its own way. Eventually, through perseverance and ingenuity, humanity establishes small, sustainable colonies on the surface. Enclosed in domes warmed by fusion reactors, lit by mirrored satellites, these settlements become beacons of hope. People live beneath artificial skies, farming artificial fields, raising children who know warmth not from the lost sun, but from technology born from human creativity. Yet the longing remains, subtle but persistent. Even beneath artificial light, people look upward, remembering the true sun. They tell their children stories of its brilliance, its life-giving warmth, its beauty. And in these stories, the sun lives again, not as a distant memory, but as inspiration. Humanity begins to dream not just of surviving, but of thriving, of someday travelling outward, toward distant stars, distant suns. Finally, the time comes to look outward. Astronomers discover worlds orbiting distant suns, planets go basking in warmth, oceans glimmering under alien starlight. Plans are drawn for voyages, ships designed for interstellar journeys, capable of carrying human life across the vast, cold distances of space. And so, beneath the frozen surface of Earth, humanity prepares to leave, not out of desperation, but hope. They carry the memory of their lost sun, the lessons learned in darkness, the resilience forged by endless night. They set out toward new worlds, determined not just to survive, but to thrive. Yet as ships lift from the frozen earth, leaving the cold behind, something remains on the planet, a quiet, persistent dream. Those who stay behind keep the lights burning, keep the memory alive, keep the warmth generated by human hands glowing beneath the frozen ground. And in their hearts, they know this truth. The sun may have vanished from the sky, but it never vanished from humanity's spirit. Warmth, light, hope, they were always within us, waiting for the darkest moment to shine brightest. Endless darkness, we never lost the light.